How you doing, everybody? It's your boy Wardy, and as you can see, we're back at it talking about the Amazings. And folks, we all know David Stearns has plenty of moves he still needs to make this MLB offseason, actually acquiring guys that are going to have a significant impact at the MLB level. And we know this lineup certainly needs, at minimum, another solid bat in there to help protect not only Pete Alonso, but also Francisco Lindor, among others. And when evaluating the DH position, there are a couple key names out there in which the Mets have been linked to a couple, but now they have finally been linked to a man in which I know a lot of Mets fans love the idea of bringing in. Whether he comes here or not is yet to be seen, but there's certainly an interest level now, and that is longtime phenomenal slugger, most recently with the LA Dodgers and JD Martinez. As you see here, initially from John Heyman of the New York Post, but reaffirmed here from SNY, the Mets are reportedly eyeing JD Martinez. Would like to keep in mind that the Mets aren't the only team involved in JD's market. The LA Angels and the Arizona Diamondbacks, just to name a few, are also involved in JD's market. So I want to know your initial thoughts, comments, questions, reactions, and concerns down below to the news that the Mets have JD Martinez on their radar. But before we advance further in the show, where I'll be breaking down everything you guys need to know about him, do I like him as a fit? Maybe do I not like him? Why does he make sense for the Mets? And maybe why not? And everything in between. Before I do that, I have to let you all know about today's video sponsor, that being our great friends at BetUS. BetUS is America's #1 sportsbook. You guys know that they've been a great sponsor here on the channel for a bit now, and we have been doing so much fun stuff with them, you know, going over the props, especially for the Yamamoto sweepstakes. And now that those are over, we're talking about all things sports betting. So if you love your overs, your unders, your money lines, your spreads, your parlays, BetUS has you covered because they're safe, secure, and reliable. And if you sign up today using my link in the description, you automatically get a 125% boost with your first deposit. So if you deposit $100, you automatically get $225 to work with for all your sports betting needs. It is that easy, and we're going to be doing some awesome, unique Wardy parlays heading into the 2024 Mets season. I'm going to be throwing out my 3 picks, saying Pete Alonso, I'm hammering him on at least 2 bases. I'm hammering Jeff McHits on at least 2 or more hits. I'm hammering Kodai Senga to give me at least 8 Ks over 7 innings, whatever it may be. So if you guys like those unique Wardy parlays, we'll be doing plenty of them with BetUS. We'll be breaking them down pregame, explaining them more so postgame, whether they hit or not. So make sure you get in on the action today. And with NFL playoffs right around the corner, what are you waiting for? Again, BetUS has you covered with all your sports betting needs. And shout out again to BetUS for being a great sponsor on the channel. But again, I want to see those reactions down below to the news about JD Martinez, because I know a lot of Mets fans right away are like, Wardy, finally the Mets are involved in this market reportedly. Can they please go out of their way to land him? My answer to this is, I don't know to what degree the Mets have an interest level here. I'd have to imagine it's fairly high because there's a couple top DH options out there. It's Jorge Soler, JD Martinez, Justin Turner, pretty much, and you can even argue in that order for the most part. And JD Martinez is a guy the Mets have had on their radar for a couple years now. We're going back to the 2022 MLB trade deadline. JD dealt with some back issues in his final year in Boston there, ended up not being dealt after a lot of rumblings and after the Mets certainly wanted to try to land him, but the asking price at the time was high by Heimblum's Boston Red Sox. Funny considering both Heimblum and Billy Epler are no longer GMs for their respective teams since that time. Point is, JD Martinez went on to finish that 2022 season, and in 2023, after leaving Boston and heading back out west for the first time since he was an Arizona Diamondback, this time at LA Dodger, JD Martinez had truly exactly the type of season you'd expect him to have with the LA Dodgers, who know exactly what it takes to get the best out of grizzled vet players, especially if they're dealing with ailments, especially if they're coming off of, say, in terms of their normal production, a down year. And that was certainly the case for JD Martinez, because as we look at these 2023 numbers, oh baby, are they sexy. 113 games played, 61 runs scored. He's not known for the speed on the bags. He's known for driving in the runs and not known for the base running. Him and Justin Turner certainly have that alike. 103, pardon my error here, guys. He had himself 103 RBIs, 33 home runs. I don't know why, but I decided to flip-flop it today, and a typical issue here in WardyNYM having at least one error. But again, 33 home runs, 103 RBIs, 1 stolen bag, which is hilarious. He even played a couple games in left field. I do not want to see him doing that should he sign with the Mets. A 271 average, a 321 OBP, a roughly 600 slug, which is a huge spike from the 2022 season, really right around a 900 OPS, a 135 WRC plus, which means in his age 35-36 season, he was 35% better than the average batter in baseball. That is the JD Martinez that we have all known and loved during his time not only with the Detroit Tigers, But of course, they're in that small stint with the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2017, and then 2018 up until this past year with the Boston Red Sox. He has championship pedigree. He knows what it takes to win during his time in Boston. He has been one of the best pure hitters in baseball, similar to Justin Turner in certain rights. Doesn't have as much power Justin Turner has versus JD Martinez, but again, both have been consistent as they are now in the latter half of their career, still being productive. And what do I like so much about JD Martinez as a fit for the Mets? It's a short-term option. Now, why have I been almost against JD Martinez at this point? I shouldn't say against, but I've been reluctant to break him down too much because he's kind of had that feeling as a player that I just don't foresee landing in Queens, especially given the fact that the Angels and the Diamondbacks have an interest level in him. Why wouldn't he want to go to the D-backs after the run that they had? And he understands the organization well, having a small stint there a couple years ago. The LA Angels, I can understand why he wouldn't want to go there, but Artie Moreno, being the schmuck that he is, could give him an overpay in which he simply couldn't refuse on a one-year deal, right? And to my counter to that would be, I hope the Mets would do the same as Steve Cohen, again, is trying to make this team better for 2024. JD Martinez is anything but a long-term commitment. I'm sure he might look for more than a one-year deal. I'm sure he probably wants a 3-year deal to really round out the remainder of his career. I don't want to give that to JD Martinez, but on a one-year deal, maybe with a second-year option, sign me up. And when looking through his advanced numbers here in Baseball Savant, what stands out? He's back to the JD Martinez that we saw in 2021 and a couple years prior with the Boston Red Sox. In 2022, dealing with his back ailments, if you look at his advanced numbers, they're not pretty. You know, you're seeing a big mix between the blue and the red in Savant, you know, when looking at expected numbers. However, back in 2023, 93rd percentile in batting run value. XWOBA, 91st percentile. Expected batting average, 77th percentile. Average exit velo, 98th percentile. Barrel percentage, 98th percentile. 98th percentile on the hard hit percentage, 97th percentile on the sweet spot percentage. This is the JD Martinez that we have grown in love over the years as just baseball fans in general. This is what made him a star during his time with the championship run there in Boston. And again, in his one and potentially only year now with the Dodgers, knowing that they have now signed Shohei Ohtani for the DH position and a starting pitching position a year plus from now, JD Martinez will likely be taking his talents elsewhere. And for more reasons than one, I would love him in Queens with the New York Mets. He's the exact type of power protection short term that you would love behind Pete Alonso, with Francisco Lindor, with Francisco Alvarez. This is the kind of bat you go for. Jorge Soler is the kind of bat you go for. Justin Turner, to a lesser degree, is the kind of bat you go for. And what is something that both Turner and even Soler, all these guys have alike? They have championships on their resume. They all know what it takes to win. So you truly can't go wrong with any of these options. But JD Martinez is limited to basically just that DH position. You're not going to be seeing him play corner outfield for the Mets. I find that very hard to believe, especially with David Stearns having a heavy emphasis on run prevention. But what you're getting in JD Martinez is a mentor for the young kids in the clubhouse and on the field. I think especially a guy like him could really bode well for Pete Alonso, in which Pete, as amazing as he is, definitely needs to keep his emotions in check at times. And JD Martinez has always been this even-keeled player no matter the result. He's always been exactly what you'd expect from him. I feel like him in this clubhouse with this roster would bode oh so well. So basically my big question is, I would love JD Martinez. I think even if you get him and he dips down next season, which wouldn't shock anyone, I'm already going with the mindset similar to Justin Turner, where if the Mets sign JDM to a one-year deal, you're going to get less production than what you got this past year with the Dodgers, just for the sake of not wanting to get my hopes up. But even a 25 home run season, north of 90 RBIs, an OPS of at least 800, no one is complaining about whatsoever if you're a Mets fan. Yes, that might be down from the typical JD Martinez statistical norms throughout his career, but that would still be a very strong stat line for a Mets team that can use that type of power in this lineup. So then you're telling me if he tops out 30, 35 home runs with a higher slug, sign me up every single day of the week. So I'm already setting my bar fairly low versus what the expectation would be for JD Martinez. But even with that low bar, that production value is still fantastic for what this Mets team could use. So should he go back to continuing to be like a 2023 JDM in 2024, then by all means, this is absolutely hitting the jackpot if you're the Mets, signing him to a one-year or potentially with a second-year option type deal. But how much interest is JD Martinez having coming to a Mets team that's in more of this transitionary 2024 season? They're going to push for playoffs, but they're not going to be the best team on paper, not even going to be the best in their division there against the Braves, against potentially even the Marlins, and of course the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies and the Braves are the big ones. The Marlins are that team where we're really curious to see how they're going to pan out, what more moves that they have on the horizon. Point is does JD Martinez want to come back to the East Coast? Does he want to go to another park where half the season he's basically playing in a pitcher's box, not a batter's box. I know he thrived well in LA. Will that transition also well here on the East Coast in a big spotlight like New York? He handled that in Boston plenty, but Boston Fenway, that's a batter's park. That is not what you're having here in Citi Field. And on top of it all, he's not getting any younger. If this is a debate between, the Mets and the D-backs, it wouldn't shock anyone if he ends up going to Arizona, should they have a heavy interest there, to rekindle that relationship and to try to go on an even bigger, better run and win it all next season if you're the D-backs. They've made a lot of smart moves this offseason. Love the type of aggressiveness they have. So again, if you're JD Martinez, I don't foresee the Mets missing out on him, maybe because of lack of effort on their end, as it would be similar to Yamamoto and some others where maybe they just prefer to go elsewhere, either because maybe he loves being out west. I wouldn't blame him whatsoever. Maybe he loves the idea of being on a more guaranteed contender for teams pursuing him. Obviously, that isn't a team like the Angels, but that is most certainly a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks. So just things to keep in mind, Mets fans, because it's easy for us to get cooped up with the notion of, oh, great, we didn't land this player because we didn't show effort or put any interest in. No, the Mets have, but you have to realize it takes two to tango. We've learned that the hard way, again, with Yamamoto, who pretty much used the Mets like a fiddle. So if that isn't telling them anything, I don't know what is. We just need to be mentally prepared as fans that as much as we may want a player, while the Mets may want the player, it does not mean that that is necessarily reciprocated in full. So keep that in mind when evaluating the players the Mets go after this offseason. I know it sucks. Trust me. I'm the first to tell you. It sucks knowing that there are guys I would love to come here that are either never going to come here or, are going to have a reluctance to until the Mets have this proper structure in place that they can be a continued, consistent contender with David Stearns, with Carlos Mendoza, with their player development and everything in between. Those things are important. I'm curious how JD Martinez currently views the New York Metropolitans. But there's one thing for certain. The Mets view him highly. He makes a lot of sense for this team. They've had a little production from the DH position since the DH became universal a couple years ago, and he would check off all the boxes you're looking for power production, veteran leadership, championship resume. Need I say more? JD Martinez, go out and do your best to land him. Mets fans, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. How do you feel about JD Martinez? Do you like him over, say, a Jorge Soler or Justin Turner? Justin Turner has the best diversity, especially for the hot corner. But if you're looking at pure bat on a short-term option, of course, JD Martinez is the sexier and more appealing name between the two. Jorge Soler, the biggest thing with him is, one, he wants a multi-year deal. Do the Mets want to go there? And do the Mets even want to consider him for the corner outfield in which he can play, but he's not good at? These are all things we have to weigh not only as fans, but as the organization is too doing. So thank you all so much for the endless support. Stay tuned for consistent coverage of all things Mets all off-season long, and have a great rest of your night to evening whenever you're watching this. This is your boy Wardy signing out. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace.